Hello everyone. So today we're going to actually the month of February. Okay, February is synonymous with basically romance because of Valentine's Day, which is I think a very popular holiday in most of Western countries. Welcome, Heaven. But actually today specifically, like this year's February 12th is the Chinese New Year. So Happy New Year to those of you who actually celebrate it. But today's life is going to be about Valentine's Day, which means romance, which means couple, which means love, which means what can you do in Japan as a couple when you visit Japan, not alone, but with your significant other. Okay. So today's activities I'm going to present are available for mostly everyone. Like everyone can do them if they are in Japan, if they have the chance to travel around Japan. Like none of them are like super expensive, because I want it to be more representative of the actual people. Welcome, Steve. But thinking about it, I will say that I've prepared those activities mostly for people who plan to go to Japan as a couple, and not actually for people who actually plans to find, let's say, a Japanese date and then go do these activities, because for those Japanese people maybe it can seem like a bit boring for some of them, but others, they are going to also love it just as much as you. The first few ones I'm going to mention in this top 10 are going to address directly to the Hanami 2022 group that's going to be going with the Otaku community to Japan in April 2022. So there are going to be activities in Tokyo, but I got like a lot of stuff that you can do outside of Japan too, in the regions, because some of them are just crazy. Welcome, Melissa. Welcome, Caroline. So yeah, I'm not going to actually spend the same amount of time on each of them, because some of them are really simple to explain, like you just get the idea, and other of them are more funny, and they can come with more interesting aspect of it, like more concept. And Japanese tourism is a lot about enjoying the concept of what you're living through. So let's start with the number one here. Well, number one, I say it's more like number 10, since it's kind of like from the probably the least original one to the most like cool one, significant one. But let's say that if you like one more than another, it's perfectly okay. They are not really in a strictly hierarchy or anything. They're just like the top 10 that appeals to me like the most interesting that someone will want to do in Japan. So okay, for those who are a bit familiar with Tokyo's geography, this is called Oido Onsen. It's actually the kind of most famous onsen in Tokyo, because actually Tokyo is not the best city when it comes to being known for onsen. But I would say that onsen are like one of the most Japanese type of vacation destination that you can hope for if you go visit Japan. Welcome, Simon, by the way. So when you think about onsen, it's a lot about couple, but most of the onsen have like women and men are separated. But you can still visit the overall structure. There are some museums, there are some shops, restaurants around it that are made for to hang out in a couple. A lot of hotels in Tokyo also has onsen that are private, like with a room, so you can just enjoy the onsen together as a couple there. Welcome, Caron Brisebois, Simon. I'm gonna call you Simon too. And that is the one reason why I chose this onsen is because it's based in Tokyo. So for people who actually goes to Japan, some of them are not going to be able to go, let's say, to Kyushu, to Hakone, to far away places. So in Tokyo, it's more like easy to reach, I would say. So I would recommend this place. As you can see, the onsen inside. By the way, you can actually not take pictures in an onsen. So this is a picture taken for like the advertisement purpose, like when the onsen is not officially open yet. And you can see it's really cool. It's indoors and outdoors too. Like there's this kind of two version of the onsen here. And when it comes to outdoor, there's a wonderful garden in this one because it has a lot of budget, because it's in Tokyo. So it has the budget it's used to make, the environment really, really calm, really, really just, magical. It gives you this onsen experience that you can have. And as a couple, I think, taking bath together is something very natural. Okay, next. All right, so this is maybe the most stereotypical of all of them. But when you look at anime, manga, when you see couples going on a date, they usually go to basically amusement centers. And round one is maybe the most popular version of the amusement centers. Round one is a company that has a lot of shops and amusement centers spread around Japan. There's a lot around Tokyo and also in the other big cities in Japan like Osaka, Kyoto, etc., etc. Well, it says bowling and amusement, but actually there's a lot more. There's billiard, there's darts, table tennis, batting. I am not sure what is batting, but yeah, there's also karaoke. Okay, karaoke is probably one of the most Japanese style of thing, but I've often more or less considered karaoke to be like something between friends more than couple. But as a couple, you can definitely go play some bowling, and also do some UFO catchers. Actually, round one is really, really fun because it's like this kind of all-in-one type of amusement center. It has a lot of stuff. When you go in a round one, it's always very good service. You just register your name, and as a couple you can like play a lot of different games together. You have to manage your time properly though, but I would say that it's really a great time. I've been there with some friends at the bowling, and there was some kind of mini game. Basically, there's like this machine on which you see the scores, and then there's a dragon, okay, on the machine, a dragon with what seems to be like a HP bar. For those who have played video games before, it's like kind of welcome, Alexi. So yeah, there's this dragon on the machine, and basically the objective is kind of to score points, and for the number of points you are going to score in your bowling game, the dragon's HP is going to decrease, and the objective is to defeat the dragon by scoring more and more points. Welcome, Ariel. Welcome, V. And welcome to all the others who join us in the meantime. So yeah, this kind of game is, I think, really what sets Japan apart from maybe other countries when it comes to providing entertainment with actual concept. It's not just an amusement center. It's an amusement center with some stuff that you can only see in Japan. And in the UFO catchers are really fun too, because you have to actually think. There's no skill in this game. You have to understand how to make the plushies and other rewards from the machines fall off, and then catch them. And that's maybe like the one of the most basic stuff you can do as a couple. One of the least expensive too, because UFO catcher machines are pretty pretty cheap when you think about it. It's like maybe it's going to take you about 1,000 yen, which is about like $12 Canadian to like win at one of the UFO catchers, because you have to play a lot places of games. Oh, this place is called Round One. Here you can see the title, Round One. It's like everywhere. Like in every major city in Japan, there's a Round One where you can play. Like you can see here a lot of different games. And since it's the same company, you're always going to receive the same quality of service. I feel like I'm actually advertising for that company, but basically what I'm saying is I've had a great time there with some friends, but I think as a couple, it's definitely one of the most simple ways of enjoying your time. And of course, there's a photo booth. Okay, what are photo booths? Also called pulicula. Okay, those basically are places where you take kind of pictures of you with a bit of a Instagram filter, kind of, where you look like super pretty. Even as a guy, you look like much better. Your eyes looks bigger. You don't see the scars on your face and everything. And the thing is, when you go to Japan, those pulicula, you cannot enter into those if you're only with guys. Like you have to be accompanied by a girl at least. So when I was there, of course, I had the luck to have a girl in our friend gang, so we all took pictures together. But otherwise, you're not supposed to take pictures with only guys. But I mean, if you're already in a Round One, it costs like maybe $4 to take such a cool picture. You can take many poses, and it prints the picture directly. You can keep it as a souvenir in your wallet or something. Welcome, Marilyn. So yeah, that's Round One is probably the most amusing place actually in most of the game places. There's also game arcades, like not only like pachinko style, but even like some of you, if you like playing Gundam. I don't suggest playing Gundam when you have a girlfriend around, by the way, because she's going to feel maybe a bit bored. But there's other games like dancing games and all sorts of other arcade stuffs. Okay, next. Okay, this is probably the most cheap place to go. Not in a sense that it's bad, but in a sense that it's basically free, because this is the Hamali Q Garden. Welcome, Chad. So the Hamali Q Garden, what is the Hamali Q Garden? It's basically like the kind of central park of Tokyo. For those who goes to Tokyo, it's super easy to find. You're going to find Hamali Q Garden in every single map of the city. You're going to find direction to go to there very easily. It's got a lot of entrances and it's around a lake. And as a couple, I think it's just, if you want to take a kind of a more intimate break from the big city and the crowd, it's definitely a good place. Of course, it's still Japan, it's still Tokyo, so it's still going to be a bit crowded, Even in a nature park, it's going to be a lot of people around you, but they are going to be, minding their own business. They're not invasive. Japanese people are some of the most respectful when it comes to leaving you to your own stuff and not checking you in a corner or judging you, and so I think for intimacy is really good. Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Jeremy. Okay, so let's go to our next. Oh no, that's just another picture. I'm pretty sure you can't actually fish in that garden, but I have never tried it. But I'm pretty sure I saw a lot of fish last time I was there. What is cool with Hamali Q Garden is also that it's kind of at the center of the city. So if, let's say, you're hungry after your walk in the park, you can easily find a restaurant nearby and eat some good sushi, for example, or some ramen. It's really easy to access if you just want to go to Tokyo, you know. Next up, okay, now we're talking big, we're talking far, we're talking Osaka. Is there anyone in among you who knows where Osaka is? Like, just basically how it's actually like the second biggest city in Japan. For those who don't know where it is, I would suggest you to actually take a look. But Osaka is usually described as an extravagant city where basically people are always funny, always, you know, warm with each other. Everyone talks with each other in the train, for example. I've had that experience too, where, you know, random people will just talk to each other in the streets. When I had a friend of mine, a Canadian friend who came to Japan, we were walking in the streets, and then a Japanese guy just passed by and gave him a high five in the street like that. This is like the Osaka style, you know, people being more extrovert, I would say. There's a lot of humorists and comedian who comes also from the Osaka region. Well, the Kansai region, if I'm to be more accurate, and that's why the Osaka Ben, the Osaka dialect of Japanese, is so well known across the Japanese media. Like, almost everyone knows Osaka Ben because, you know, they appear a lot in the medias. But nonetheless, for couples, okay, when you are in a couple, I think one of the cool stuff is to go to high places and take a look at the city around you. And Umeda Sky Building is the right place, I think, for doing just that. I'm going to show. Okay, so this is basically a building with an observatory place at the top, which is the kind of circle. I'm going to show you how it looks from above. Okay, it looks like this. Okay, just take a few moments to actually capture this thing. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can actually see them, but you see here, those are actually people who are just basically looking at the rest of the city from that position. And by the way, there's also like around here between the bridge to go in the center of the circle and the actual center, there's no rooftop. So you can actually feel the wind and the air of the high place, like, you know, blow into your face. You can feel it's so fresh, and also you get to take a good look at Osaka. Unlike Tokyo, Osaka is not that big. Like, it's like not as big as most people would think. It's the second most populous city in Japan, but it's like in area size is much smaller than Tokyo. So from atop of the Umeda Sky Building, you can actually see like all the most interesting places in Osaka. So you can actually take cool pictures of the entire city. But of course, taking a look at higher places is not going to make something romantic by itself, right? So this is why I'm going to welcome Caroline. This is why they have this concept here, the love locks. So love locks are basically very simple. There's a guy sitting there near the rooftop, and he's basically selling them. If you want to buy it, he's going to carve your name in letter with the name of your girlfriend or boyfriend, and then you can basically hang those locks in a specially designed space, like which is on another rooftop of the same building, where you can basically keep it there. It's around $10, I think, for the lock, and I think this is the more fashionable way of basically before people used to write their names like this name plus this other name on trees. This is like definitely the fancier and more expensive version of it, but it's at the top of the world, so I think it's really cool. And it's surprising because people don't associate Umeda Sky Building with romance of any kind. So I think it's kind of more modern, more of the surprising part of Japan. Welcome, Luc Alexandre. Next up, welcome, Jennifer. So yeah, next up we're going to be hanging around Tokyo now. Okay, no, sorry, I was wrong. We're going to hang out around Kyoto, not Tokyo. Okay, Kyoto. Kyoto is known as the more calm and traditional counterpart to Tokyo. It has like thousands of shrines and temples. Okay, for those who don't know Kyoto, like there's just so many big temples that are historically important because Kyoto was basically the capital of Japan for 1,000 years. Okay, so Kyoto is actually like a very, very historical city, but the population is very low. When you unlike Tokyo and Osaka, when you walk in the street, you actually have a lot of space. Like there's a lot of space in Kyoto. Kyoto is big, and at the same time, like mostly visited by tourists. Of course, there's like stuff like the Kyoto Animation Studio and other big companies. I think Sega has an office there. Probably Nintendo does too. But that is just to say Kyoto's like kind of a break from the crowded aspect of Japan. And when you're visiting Kyoto, around the north side of Kyoto, Arashiyama is basically a mountain where there's big amount of bamboo forest, and those bamboo forests basically leads to a shrine on the top of the mountain. But as a couple, what you can do is basically ride a rickshaw. Okay, so, and those rickshaw are like everywhere along the road. Like you can ride it all the way to the top, or ride it downward, or just ride it like midway and then walk the rest of the way. I think the bamboo forest is really, really beautiful to see, mostly around spring. And also, if you speak a bit of Japanese, you can also discuss with the rickshaw pullers. But otherwise, you can just enjoy yourself, like, in a carriage, in a very, very traditional Japanese style. I mean, like, rickshaw is not something that exists in most countries nowadays, but Japan kept it as a legacy of their culture, especially around the Edo era. Like so many foreigners had to rely on Japanese rickshaw pullers to travel around difficult places, because those Japanese people were used to walk around those very rough spaces, especially like mountains and forests. So there's this kind of really nice historical vibe. It's like you travel back in time. By the way, in Kyoto, there's many studio to actually rent a kimono. If you want to wear one, like you can basically change yourself into a set of kimono and then ride this rickshaw puller and have this, kind of vibe that you're back in the Japan of Edo period or something, back in the historical era. Of course, if you start looking at your iPhone while on the trip, maybe the historical vibe is not going to be all there, but if you respect the game, it's probably going to be magical. Hi, welcome, Ariane. Okay, next. Okay, another stop in Kyoto. This is probably the coolest place in all of Japan when it comes to romance, because it's actually a shrine dedicated to the god of romance. I'm not going to attempt saying his name, because even if I can speak a bit of Japanese, his name is super complicated, but the name of the temple is Jishu Temple. Okay, Jishu Temple. Jishu. You can call it Jishu Shrine too. And basically it's the shrine where the god of love resides. Welcome, Christophe. Welcome, Eric. And what's special with this temple is that it's very close to Kiyomizu-dera, which is one of the more famous temple shrines in Kyoto. So it's actually really easy to find. You can just, type it on Google and you're going to find it. And as a couple, I think it's really cool to go to this place because it's a temple, a shrine actually, not only for people in couple, but for those who are actually single. There are charms and also prayers that you can do also to kind of get good luck to find a significant other soon. For example, if you're in a couple, of course you go send some prayers and pay tribute to your own love in front of the god of love, basically. But if you're single, there's this thing in the shrine. These are called the rocks of love. Okay, those are two big rocks that are basically 10 meters apart. And the expression "love is blind." Well, basically the Japanese people just took it literally and set a game where you just start from one rock and you have to blind yourself with something, and then you have to be able to walk straight to the other rock, like from one rock to another, and they are about 10 meters apart. So you have to be blind and just walk from one rock to another. And if you can succeed, it's going to give you like the biggest fortune and chance to find your boyfriend, to find a girlfriend, to find your significant other. That's like kind of their game of this place. And of course, meanwhile, you're going to see a lot of couple of all kinds in that temple, because that shrine is basically so crowded all the time. And there's not a lot of shrine dedicated to love in Japan, so this one is particular. Welcome, William, by the way. Next. Okay. This one is called the Chuleito Pagoda. Okay, you can probably recognize the Mount Fuji behind, but actually this pagoda is the most, I think, most shared location in Japan on Instagram. So why is this pagoda cool? Well, because of the forest around it, but also because Japanese design, its style, its beauty, and the forest around the pagoda has two bloomings. One which is basically the plum trees blooming, and then the second one it's the cherry blossoms period. And both of them are around like March to April, maybe sometimes later, and sometimes during the during autumn there's also other kinds of blooming trees changing color. But basically, I strongly believe that going to some place that is so Instagrammed, some place that you have always seen as a picture, but going in person, it's like another level of experience, basically. And also being around a cool sakura blossom forest, I think that's very simple. But this one was by far the most simple activity that you can do. I wanted to talk about it because Mount Fuji, we're not done with Mount Fuji yet. Okay, this is just the first step about Mount Fuji. I think maybe Mount Fuji has this kind of representation of being great, of being tall, of being grandiose, of being famous. So the fact that you visit there with your lover means that you basically kind of screams your love on the top of the world, this kind of vibes. Next. Okay. In many Asian cultures, swans are kind of representative of love, because actually in their mating behavior, swans are going to always stay with one partner for their entire life. They are not the kind of animal like I would say dogs or cats. I'm not even sure about what I'm saying here, but basically they do not have this habit of mating and then separating and going with others. When they mate with another, they mate for life. Basically, they stay for life, And that is why swan is representative of love. And of course, where are those swans? Near Mount Fuji, of course. Mount Fuji is where they actually spend a lot of time. And near Mount Fuji, on the side of Yamanashi Prefecture, because Mount Fuji is actually in the middle of Shizuoka Prefecture and Yamanashi Prefecture. On the side of Yamanashi Prefecture, there's like a lake for swans that you can see from pictures like this, and there's a lot of swans in it. But even if you cannot become a swan and actually have a partner for life, you can actually ride with your partner a swan boat. Okay, so this is something that maybe some of you have seen in popular shoujo anime and mangas, but it's actually quite quite famous of an activity to do. If you don't want to be just you and your lover, of course you can take a tour in a swan boat with other people. If you don't like to, let's say, to the pedaling to make the boat move forward, if you like to just chill, well, there's both like that. But most of them of those swan boats are for lovers, basically, to take a tour around the lake. The lake is usually calm, so it's really relaxing. You feel like you're away from everything, yet Mount Fuji is so near. It's so close to you actually, and swans, representation of love. And I think near the Valentine's Day stuff, I think that's just something most would like to do in Japan actually. And of course, with that kept in mind, it means that maybe around Valentine's Day is going to be a bit more crowded, but luckily enough, it's basically open all times of the year, so you can actually go visit it and ride that boat like anytime you want. All right, we're entering into our end game activities. Like there's only 2 left now. But what I consider, this is like a very personal type of thing, but of course, just because it's a Valentine's Day, I'm not going to talk about giving chocolates and white day chocolates and those of stuff. Mainly because I consider that if you go to Japan, I mean, you're going to, of course, buy some chocolate, sure, but I don't think like just sharing chocolate in Japan is maybe the most interesting. I mean, like you can just buy those chocolate and take some time to share it among you with your significant other, like at home. But while you are in Japan, I would strongly suggest you to spend some time, always busy, like always visiting somewhere, because you're not going to stay in Japan very long most of the time, and as such, every single moment counts. And when I first heard of that place, I did not consider it very romantic, but thinking back at what you can actually do there, I think it's probably one of the most romantic places in Japan. And we're talking about Enoshima. Welcome, Jiska. So, Enoshima. Enoshima, what about? Well, first of all, Enoshima is not that far from Tokyo. So for those who are with the group trip in the Hanami 2022 group, during the day offs, you can actually go to Enoshima very easily. The train leading to there is like one direct line, so you can just take it and come back very easily. There's very good restaurants in Enoshima, a lot of food, a lot of scenery to see, but I'm going to show them to you one by one. So this is a picture I personally took. That day it was a bit cloudy, but not too much. Welcome, Lisa, by the way. And Enoshima, well, has this kind of proximity with the sea because it's a bit further from the coast than Tokyo, so you can actually see a lot of big waves coming in. Of course, it's nothing dangerous, but there's definitely this feeling that is, kind of natural Like it's very traditional yet very very small. There are some anime who mentions Enoshima. Some animes such as Bunny Girl Senpai, some other anime, more manga like Elfen Lied for those of you who knows this manga, and of course other anime like Tali Tali. There's a lot of mention to Enoshima, and Enoshima is also the center of an area called Shonan. For those who know great teacher Onizuka, well, he comes from Shonan. Shonan is basically this kind of big road near Tokyo that is maybe, I think it spans 50 kilometers long. It's so for those who likes to do moto, they can find a really great road there. And at the aquarium of Enoshima, because it's the seaside, so they have cool aquariums. They have a lot of animal themed, very very cute dessert that I found, that I would recommend you take a look at this. Okay, this is basically a seal themed ice cream, and the others are like buns themed on, like this is a baby seal and this is a turtle. They have very very big turtle, like bigger than humans. It's really crazy. Welcome, Ocean. But Enoshima's specialty is the shirasu. Okay, what is shirasu? Shirasu is basically kind of baby fish. I think it's baby anchovies. I'm not 100% certain, but basically they take the baby fishes and eat them like as a mass, like like a bowl of rice, but it's a bowl of shirasu instead. Welcome, Miyakim. And you can notice this is the logo of the most famous restaurant on Enoshima, and you can notice how cute this is. They made this shirasu look more feminine by putting like a small flower on it. You can see now why I say this place is romantic. Like people just has those kind of very cute ideas. I'm sure like everyone loves those kind of small details when visiting somewhere. And I actually took picture because I ate there in this restaurant. Ta-da! This is my kaisendon. Kaisendon is basically seafood stuff with fish, with other stuff on top of rice. I had some special Enoshima beer too. It's really delicious. Miso soup here, and a bowl and complete other bowl of shirasu. Shirasu itself does not taste like much, like it doesn't really have much taste, but the feeling when you actually eat it is really like crunchy and pleasant, I would say. But the most romantic thing in Enoshima is the sunset, because there's also a beach, but also the sunset in Enoshima is one of the most romantic stuff that you can watch as a couple. This is a picture I actually took. I am not sure if you guys can actually see it, but there's Mount Fuji in the background. Okay, try to actually see it. It's like around here, around here. Yeah, like there's kind of a silhouette of Mount Fuji. It was a bit cloudy, but on a very clear day, looking at the sunset from Enoshima's beach, and looking at Mount Fuji and the sunset together, I think is one of the best picture place you can find. And of course, talking about pictures, this is my number one activity that I would suggest you to do as a couple, is to simply take pictures of you together on every single opportunity. Okay, Japan has this culture of photography, of taking pictures, and I think there's not many countries that you can visit and think, oh, it's actually more beautiful than Japan. Okay, Japan is extremely beautiful, and as a couple, I think there's just so many places you can take pictures with. And in the end, no matter what place you're at, if you can take a picture, fancy one with your significant other, and then remember your magical trip to Japan, remember your good time with them in Japan, I think that's maybe something that nothing else can actually beat in terms of romance. Romance is something we all create inside of us, and with a picture, that is the way to make your romance the most personal possible, because on those pictures is actually you and your lover who are shown on the picture, and you're going to remember having been around those places. You're going to remember the magical feeling of being lost in a foreign country with only you and the other person to rely on. I've had that experience in the past, like, but it was with friends and not with lovers, but where you're basically in a foreign country and you're not, like, I mean, I cannot speak Japanese for very complicated stuff. Like, I can speak everyday Japanese only. So if there was a problem, it would be very difficult for me. But with your lover, with your friend gang, I think, taking pictures and remembering that you were there together at that moment, I think maybe that's the most romantic thing you can actually create for yourself, because it's just so personal. Every picture belongs to you. Every picture represents you and the one you love. So yeah, that's it for today. Actually, I think my PowerPoint is finished now. Those were my top 10 activities to do in Japan as a couple. Thank you everyone for staying until the end. Welcome, Jan. Well, it is not Valentine's Day yet, so because of that, next week I'm also going to be doing a live based on the theme of romance. But this time we're going to go more further into manga, into anime, because I'm going to basically show you guys how to write a good romance story, whether it can be used as a scenario for a shoujo manga or manga more for guys. But I'm going to explain all the genres and all the kind of archetypes, types, and trends that you can find in popular shoujo manga, and why they work, why the audience likes them. I'm going to be talking about all that, and just basically maybe give you guys some guidelines to create romance stories for those of you who likes to write or imagine stories, or those of you who even want maybe one day to create their own manga. I think that would be the best. So yeah, let's see each other's next Friday at 6:30 p.m. See you everyone, and as always, らっしゃいませ